Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 133 of the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And we did something that we don't normally do. And I know we told you guys what movie we're going to do. But as I watched it, I realized I don't want to talk about this movie that much. So I called an audible and I told Tim, let's pick something else. And Tim came up with a great movie we're going to discuss tonight, The Headhunter from Shudder. But we'll get to that shortly. But first, let's go to what Tim likes to call our first chop.
All right, guys, so I am officially finished with my 40 Years of Terror project after a long 40 films, which I think I'll try to post these on social media so everybody will have the full list of what I went through with this project. And as you know, the project was to watch a movie from each year going back 40 years. So we started with 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, or something like that. I don't know.
I can't help you. It's your project.
It's my project. I don't even know what I'm doing. But yeah, so I watched, it was right at 40 films, I guess. So that was a fun project. The only rule I really had was to not watch something I'd seen before. And so the last year that I had to do was 2004, so I chose Cube Zero. Now, I had seen the original Cube, of course, and I really loved that movie. I thought it was fantastic. So I was kind of curious about Cube Zero, which is a prequel of sorts, even though if you had told me it was a sequel, I would have believed you. I would have had it.
Oh, it's not related to Cube?
It is, but it's considered a prequel. But
oh, I see.
I couldn't tell if it was a prequel or a sequel. But this one was actually somewhat good. It was somewhat entertaining. It involves this woman that is trapped in the cube. One of the operators of the cube, it kind of goes behind the scenes with them. The operators are these basically two run-of-the-mill IT guys that are kind of the grunts. They kind of just oversee things and set off traps and stuff like that. And one of the guys kind of falls in love with this woman that's trapped in the cube and decides to help her. So then you have the big bosses coming down, trying to clean up the mess they've made with him trying to help this woman. And now he's trapped in the cube with her and all this kind of stuff. But I actually kind of enjoyed it. It has some really good kill sequences. It's kind of got some interesting lore behind the cube and all that kind of stuff. And as I was watching it, I realized that the cube was basically Saw before Saw, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And Cube Zero particularly has a bit of a cabin in the woods vibe to it. So I was like, man, this movie was a little bit ahead of its time. Now, so yeah, because Cube came out in 97, which was well before Saw came out. And it kind of has that same kind of vibe to it with like these traps and stuff. So I was watching it, I kind of enjoyed it from a different perspective because now we've seen movies like Saw and stuff come out. You realize, hey, this thing kind of was a little bit ahead of its time in that respect. So it's, I'll give it a cautious thumbs up if you enjoy the Cube movies. I mean, I know they're a little claustrophobic and you kind of have to like the whole, getting killed by various extreme ways kind of movie. But if you like that kind of thing, I thought it was a solid follow-up to Cube. I think this one actually was the third film in the series. There was a Cube 2 that came out, which was a proper sequel, which I still have not seen, by the way. And then this one was the third movie and final, I think, that they've made, and that was the prequel. So yeah, if you like Cube, I think you'll enjoy this one.
Cool. Yeah, and by the way, Cube 2 is on Amazon Prime, in case you're wondering.
Yeah, I'm probably going to get to that one at some point. The second movie I watched over the weekend was The Grudge 2. This is the remake of the Japanese version. This is the follow-up to the Sarah Michelle Gellar Grudge. And the reason I watched this one was because I was going down through my top 1,000 horror movies list and kind of randomly picking movies and just saw that this one happened to be available. And I think I watched this one on Crackle, of all things. And,
I like imagine if that cut out and you said, I watched this on crack, of all things.
yeah. I probably should have watched it on crack. I will have to say, for a sequel to an Americanized remake of a Japanese horror movie, it wasn't terrible. You have Amber Tamblyn, so you have a recognizable star.
Yeah, she's good. I like her.
And Sarah Michelle Gellar even does an extended cameo reprising her character from the first film. So that was pretty cool. I like it when like the big name stars actually will come back and do a little bit of work for the sequel to kind of segue into the new lead.
Yeah, it's like that retired player that comes back to mentor the replacement.
Yeah, so I really like that part of it. And it's got all of the basic Grudge tropes that you would expect. And they have some good scares and stuff. Now, I will say, after watching this, that I don't find the Japanese ghost stuff scary anymore. Like, it just comes off kind of hokey. And maybe it's because we've seen it parodied so much over the years. And so after watching this, I kind of understood why the new Grudge remake did not do well. I don't think that type of horror really, and the Rings sequel, that Rings that came out did not do well. I don't think we're at a point where we want to go back to Japanese horror. I think that's time has passed. And after watching this, it just reinforced my belief that that genre of horror is just not cutting it right now.
Well, yeah, when I think it came out, it was so unique and cool to see it. You know, with those quick. I mean, and other movies are borrowing some elements from it too, which doesn't help. It's, you know, help it not watering down and getting, you know, kind of thing that like those weird like walks and the, you know, the little cuts. Yeah. So many films use that technique now, and it's like, so it's like you see it so much that you almost blend it, and it almost kind of at some level like waters down the ones that you liked earlier. But I still say though, if you watch the original versions, you still kind of get the nostalgia and the more horror from it. I think, I don't know, something about the American versions just seem like they're like American versions of it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So I can't really recommend this one from a like, oh, do you want to see a good horror movie? You need to watch Grudge 2. I can't recommend it from that perspective, but from a sequel to an American remake, it was about as good as you could expect, which is to say it was watchable and it was pretty decent all in all. Better than I expected, I would have to say.
There you go.
Then I've got a little book recommendation here, and I won't speak a lot about it because it's not horror, but it's just such a fascinating, entertaining book. It's called Movies and Other Things by Shea Serrano, and it has illustrations by Arturo Torres. And this book is basically a book about movies, but it's in a conversational tone of what two friends would probably talk about movies. And the whole book is structured in a series of like questions or what if scenarios. For instance, one of the questions was, or one of the scenarios was, who's in the Action Kill Movie Hall of Fame? And then he proceeds to list out 19 different action movie kills and talk about why those should be in the Hall of Fame. Or there's another one where he's talking about who's the best movie dog owner. Was it John Wick? Was it some other guy from some movie I hadn't seen? Or was it?
That's cool.
And he'll go through that. There was one that was like, so the main villain in Mean Girls. He was like, if you took every high school student from every high school movie that was ever made, who would be sitting at her lunch table with the main girl from Mean Girls? So there's all these like weird, quirky, like what if questions that you might come up with when you're talking to your friends. And he goes into all this detail in the book, and he explains why he believes every single one of these. He has all this love for Tarantino films. He's got one chapter where he randomly inserts an illustration of Leatherface getting a massage for no reason other than he just thought it was funny, so he had his friend draw it. So I just absolutely adore this book. If you're a film geek or movie geek or pop culture geek, I think you would absolutely love it. It's really, really cool. Movies and Other Things by Shea Serrano and Arturo Torres. So I would highly recommend it if you're a nerd like me who likes movie discussions about weird stuff.
No, I totally want to get that book.
Yeah, it's tons of fun. And then lastly, a little short blurb. I have tried Call of Cthulhu on Xbox Game Pass, which I will have to say, I always say Cthulhu. In the game, they say Cthulhu. And I've heard people bash people that say Cthulhu because they say it's actually Cthulhu.
So I'm pronouncing it wrong this whole time?
Yes, and I have too, but I'll still call it Cthulhu. I don't care. But anyway, this is a video game based off the original role-playing game Call of Cthulhu. This was a D&D style tabletop game that I used to play back in the day. Ken played with us too. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. This is the actual officially licensed video game adaptation of that. And it's a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun with this game. It's basically an adventure game. You play this investigator who is kind of a drunkard, but was tasked by a man to find out what happened to his daughter. His daughter paints these weird paintings, and she died in a mysterious house fire. And of course, it gets into all these Lovecraftian elements. And the gameplay is pretty simple. I mean, you're just walking around, like finding clues and finding things and clicking on things and reading things and talking to people and making dialogue choices. So it's not an action game. You don't have to worry about fighting monsters and stuff. It's not that kind of game. It's more kind of a puzzler. And I really like the way they handle, like you can upgrade your character. So you can, as you find clues and stuff, you can upgrade like your ability to spot hidden objects, or your ability to question people. You also have like these, you have like an inventory. I don't know if you've played any kind of adventure game recently, it kind of has that same style to it, but it's very atmospheric, and there's a madness mechanic to it. So as you're going through the game, you might start going insane, and you might start seeing things or hearing things. That kind of stuff goes on. So kind of neat implementation of the whole Cthulhu mythos stuff, and it definitely has a very good feel, Lovecraftian feel to it. So if you have Xbox Game Pass, it's free. It's Xbox Gold. So if you have Xbox Gold, it's the game of the month this month. So make sure you download it, even if you don't get a chance to play it. Download it so you'll have it, because it's free if you're a Gold member this month.
I have to try that. Yeah, I actually want to upgrade from the regular Gold and Game Pass to that one you have, that Ultimate one.
Yeah, I'm absolutely loving that thing, because I do play a lot of games on PC, and that just gives you that PC game. So if I ever have a time where I can't get on the Xbox because Joshua's taking over or something, I can go and play a game on the PC. And some of the games are cross-platform. Like there's one game I played, Ark Survival, or Survival Evolved. I played it on PC, and then I went down to the Xbox later on and fired it up, and my stuff was still there. So
cool.
It's cross-platform saves, which is kind of cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so the first thing I'll talk about real quick is that movie that we were going to watch, which is 13-13-13. It was not what I expected. I don't know what I was expecting, but it's not what I got. It was really after the first 15 minutes, I basically texted Tim and I said, I apologize in advance for the movie this week. It's just been something that's so overdone, and it was just I hate to criticize movies, but the acting in this was just horrendous. I mean, except the main lead, he was good. And the two main leads, the main actor and the main actress, they were good. But all the supporting people seemed so out of place, and I swear to God, one guy literally said, I think he said the same line 4 times. I don't know whether that's intentional or just they kind of had some ad-lib things going on. I don't know. It was hard to watch through it. But yet I stuck through it. I watched the whole thing. But yeah. So, but I'm glad we didn't pick. So Tim jumped and switched to the movie we had, which I almost didn't get to watch either because my Shudder account was having glitches. People have been having glitches all week. Mine was an extra long glitch where it literally was just treating me as if I was never I didn't have an account. But it was weird because I'd go in, my list was there, so all my saved stuff was there, except I couldn't watch any of it. I'd go to click and it says, "Oh, it didn't seem like you're one of us." But thanks to Shudder support, they fixed it relatively quickly, and I was back up and running in enough time to watch our movie this week. But one of the things I did, actually, while I was waiting for my Shudder, I actually started to read, Tim.
Oh, whoa, okay.
I know. I had quickly read the first chapter already of that great Halloween book, the one I had gotten you, and then I actually had bought for myself, the Taking Shape. Actually, no, sorry, my mom got me that. I had got it for you, and my mom got it for me, where it literally goes through the history of every Halloween movie. And this thing, I had read the first chapter, and then I decided to pick it up again over the weekend, and I literally could not put it down. I went through Halloween 2 through, and I'm just finishing up Halloween 5. And it's great because it goes through each movie, and it kind of has a formula each chapter where it kind of goes through the plot of the movie, how it came to be, 1 or 2 interviews with essential people on it. It gives a whole list of deleted scenes and alternate cuts. It goes through a whole section on how it was in the script and how it was what ended up coming on to the actual screen. And then it has a page of all these of actually the reviews from the time, which is real, like little snippets of the reviews, which are it's really cool. So it really gets you into it, and certain ones are really extensive. Like the Halloween 5 has, I think, 3 extra interviews with people on it, and it's just really interesting and it actually made me appreciate that movie even more. So it's like I can't wait. I'm actually really excited to read all about Halloween 6. As you know, that's one of the more spoken about ones, with its producer's cut and its other cut. And it's so funny how like they literally go into like little scenes that I never knew before. Like there was a whole different sequence of opening to part 5, which I'm not going to go into now because I'll let you enjoy that in the book and anyone else wants to read it. But it's just really cool. If you're a fan of the Halloween series, this is the most essential book you could ever own. Literally, it's so good. Like I said, I couldn't put it down. I must have went through like 200 plus pages of it, and it's like a big book. It's like over 400 pages, close to 500.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
So yeah, you got to read this thing. This is great. And then actually now we have something coming up, which is our usual thing we like to do through toy fairs and Comic-Cons and big events. We have our man on the ground, the one and only Cone, who's going to come on in a few minutes to talk about all the new horror merchandise. And boy, there is a lot.
Oh man, some really good stuff coming out now. So you better hold on to your wallets because there's some really awesome horror stuff here.
Okay, so everyone's special feature, is of course when we talk about all the fun things that you get to spend your money on. It's that time of year with Toy Fair is taking place in New York City, and we have our amazing man on the ground, Mr. Cone, to come over here and talk about all the cool horror stuff that he's been watching. So welcome back to Civil Gore, Cone.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Tim. I miss those dulcet tones.
They're extra dulcety tonight, I have to say, Tim.
Oh, thank you. I've been soothing them with a ruby jammer from 6 Point.
From closer to our neck of the woods there.
Yeah. You can thank them for my dulcet.
There you go. So Cone, we've been texting all weekend. I know you've been kind of giving us some things, but I know you have a whole list of stuff you gotta tell us about here for what you've discovered at Toy Fair.
Oh, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, there were quite a few board game announcements this past week, and I know the two of you, well, one of you more recently than the other, have gotten addicted to board games. So, not saying which.
Who would that be?
So the first big news that, I gave Tim the heads up on Friday as well was they announced this. Apparently a Shining board game had been announced.
Yeah.
So the description is this. It's a game of survival and suspense. Players are the caretakers exploring the hotel, attempting to gain enough willpower to withstand its corrupting influence each month as they stay for the winter in the Overlook Hotel. Those who fail become temporarily possessed, attacking and possibly killing other players. One of you plays the role of the corrupted who already succumbed to the terrible forces of the Overlook and secretly acts against the other players. And the goal is to survive 4 months there.
That kind of sounds like the Jaws game a little bit, where there's like 3 versus 1 kind of a thing.
Yeah, it also kind of reminds me of the Thing board game where one person could be the Thing and is acting against the other players, but they can't let on that they are and that kind of stuff. So, sounds cool.
Same thing with Betrayal at House on the Hill is another one that's similar concept. But the big news to tell the two of you is right now I'm looking at Target's website and it's available in stores right now.
The Shining is?
The Shining.
Whoa.
Farmingdale for you, Brian, and Wilmington for you, Tim.
Well, I know where I'm stopping on the way home tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know where I'd get to play this, but because my group really typically won't play anything that's not fully co-op, but I'd still want to. I'm just going to own it just to have it.
All right.
Well, I pass by that Farmingdale Target every day on the way home, and tomorrow I will be stopping and picking that up. That's awesome.
So there was that. That was the first news. And then speaking about Betrayal at House on the Hill, they just announced a Scooby-Doo edition called Betrayal at Mystery Manor. So same thing. You're playing as members of the Scooby Gang, exploring the grounds, and then when you get enough clues, one of you becomes the haunter. That's got promise to it. And then I don't know if you guys are into the Funko-verse games. Each one is basically it's like capture the flag or defeat your opponent, but they're interchangeable. So you can have Batman versus Harry Potter or Golden Girls versus Rick and Morty. So they have a new expansion coming of Jaws and Quint.
Yeah, my daughter has the Harry Potter one. We haven't had a chance to play it yet. I would definitely want the Jaws one because that just looks cool. I just want the figures.
Oh, absolutely. So that's the big board game news. Now, as for the figures, here's where most of Brian and your money will go this year.
Mm.
So, NECA Toys has been teasing, some amazing sculpts of things. So this year, for the movie, they announced for Jaws, they're doing an 8-inch Quint and Chief Brody. And
I saw this. This looks great.
it's got your bucket of chum, it's got, your headbands, but more importantly, in the press release was a little hint saying an in-scale shark will be coming later in 2020.
Oh my God. Now I have to tell you that I am not going to be ashamed to say this, but I will be purchasing those two items plus the shark and reenacting it and shoving Quint in the shark's mouth. I don't care. I will play with my action figures for that.
Well, then you only need half a Quint for that then.
That's true. Well, I do have that great thing that McFarlane came out with years ago, that whole model. And even though I had a little damage in the move on, a piece of it broke off, it still can stay together. So you can kind of put the half Quint in the mouth, which is really cool.
Right. And some of their other inch sculpt lines is, they've announced, we already knew about the Halloween 2 with Dr. Loomis and Laurie and Michael. But the other big news was Victor Crowley will be coming out as an 8-inch figure this year too.
Yeah, I can't wait.
And NECA themselves has great pictures of it. And if you look, Toy Arc is another great company that's been showing and teasing things. And then they have their Toonie Terrors line, which is kind of like their Scooby-Doo version. And they've done 3 waves already of those. Michael Myers, Jason, those. But the new batch has Nosferatu. It's got the Nun. It's got Ash. It's got Sam from Trick or Treat. I know that's a personal favorite of both of yours.
Yes.
And then for their Gremlins line, they've got a diorama of Dory's Tavern from the first movie. And the level of detail in this thing is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, Tim, did you see this yet?
No, this sounds
Oh my God, you have to see this. Conan and I've been like fawning over it. It looks amazing.
We'll go look it up while you're talking.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Mego, which was a very popular toy line in the 70s. It was a line of cloth dolls, action figures. It's every license you could ever think of back in the day. It was things like, it was Happy Days, or it was Star Trek or whatever, or Married with Children. They brought it back 2 years ago, and so they just announced they're doing, for horror versions, they're doing Harold from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. They're doing Dr. Jekyll. They have one for Leatherface. They have from The Exorcist, and they have the Fly from the original version of the Fly, not the Brundlefly version.
I want Brundlefly though. Yeah, you know what
could
was
just
great?
regurgitate on something. Yeah.
I'll get some Nickelodeon slime and put it in there. But yeah, that was what was cool about actually Mego back in the day, because like now it's almost unheard of to get like a multi-license thing. And back then you could get like, you walk in the store and in the same shelf you'd find a Batman and a Spider-Man, Marvel and a DC. You basically, it wouldn't matter. So it's pretty cool how they did that. And I remember that, that big famous one is, I guess, the Almighty Isis, right? That's the rarest one of the Migos from the old day.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And then the other big one is there's a company called, let me get the name right here, Trick or Treat Studios.
Oh yeah, they do a lot of good stuff. Actually, each year they have a whole, they release a catalog of tons of horror merch.
Right, they do. They're great for Halloween mask licensing and props. And so this year they announced they're doing 1/6 scale figures, but the big announcement was art from Terrifier.
Yeah, that's David Howard Thornton was very excited about that. He shared that on his Facebook page, and I think Damien Leone shared it on and him shared it on Instagram. And that's funny because if you go back to our interview with him, we were discussing that, and he said he would love to have an action. But we were thinking NECA was going to do it, but I don't think anyone's complaining because that thing looks perfection.
It looks
like
really
shrunk
good.
him down. I mean, it literally looks like they took him, David Howard Thornton, in full costume and shrunk him. That's how well.
Yeah, the glee on his face.
Yeah, I mean,
And
God.
the blood.
What a perfect time, because Terrifier 2 comes out this October, so it's a good time to release some good official art that Cloud Magic, because there is that there was those custom sort of like fake things that I think Damien Leone made himself, right? They said the little the Funko Pop replicas, but they weren't actual Funko Pops, of course.
Right,
But,
not licensed.
no, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's next. I mean, especially if, you can't deny that Terrifier franchise has been so big. There's full costumes of it. There's shirts, and now there's an action figure. It's just a matter of time before they grab that.
And then this year we'll bring part 2, hopefully. So.
Yeah, no, in October. That's just about finished. It's just about wrapped. I think it's in post-production now. So now there was some Super 7 stuff, right? That is coming out too. I saw.
There's some
I
Super
think.
7. I was going to say that the big thing one of the big things for Super 7 is this is the 40th anniversary of Alien. So they've got the entire cast replicated for that.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's cool.
I did see, even though it's not horror related, they do have an Archie figures line which looks awesome, and I've been waiting for this like pretty much my whole life. I mean, I know they had those weird dolls back in maybe 15 years ago, those like weird
Yeah, I remember
Archie and
those.
Veronica, but
Yeah.
they weren't as good. But this is like little Archie figures. It's Archie, Jughead, Reggie, Betty, and Veronica. Which, I mean, just to have that alone, I have to get all those.
Yeah, and their other great one was they licensed Pee-wee's Playhouse, and they have a
yeah.
Phil Hartman Captain Carl figure that I sent Brian a picture of.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Yeah, and they look almost like the original versions of those figures that came out. Remember the ones that Mark bought and all of those? That whole series of kind of looked pretty close to those.
So yeah, I was going to say, I mean, other than art from Terrifier, they've got. I mean, this company again, like I said, they do replicas, they do costumes, so they've got a few different replica Freddy gloves this year. Your Necronomicon, great for raising who knows what.
Tim, there's your bookshelf item.
Well, I've actually got the old Evil Dead DVD collector's edition that came in a Necronomicon cover. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I have that one. That one's cool. Yeah, it's amazing that, like, I swear to God, horror collectibles nowadays are just as like they're just coming out so. Like it's such a flux now. It's like bad enough to keep up with the Blu-rays and stuff, and now you have so between the video games and the figures and board games. It's like it's impossible to be to be a real big horror collector now. You'll go broke.
Yeah. Well, every license we never had rights to as a kid is now as an adult you can buy these things. If it's not an action figure, it's a Funko Pop. Everything gets licensed now.
Right. I saw, it was funny, not that it's horror related, but it was like right before we went on air, I saw they had that Super 7 had Red Dawn action figures, like little 2-packs.
Yes.
And so I sent it to Mark, and Mark actually sent back a funny thing. And I know Tim still has not seen this movie, Steve, believe it or not, but Mark said, could you imagine they do a Midnight Madness action figure line? That would
Leon
be
and a
great.
strategy board.
I know. We still need to get Tim to see this movie, though. Tim, you need to watch it.
Yeah, I've got to try to track it down somewhere.
It's got to come on Disney Plus sooner or later. I mean, it's a Disney movie, technically. Disney owns it, right, Steve? They own?
Yes, they own it. It was one of their first PG movies. But Brian and I probably both have it on VHS and DVD. We could lend it to you.
Let's see, hang on. I'm looking at one of those sites that tells you where it's playing.
Oh, yeah.
So that was from 1980, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's available rent for $3 on Amazon. So I might just have to do that.
Oh, yeah, you got to watch it. Oh, wow, check this out. So, yeah, I looked. It's only $24.99 for that Shining board game. That is awesome.
I'm just going to grab that just to have it.
Yeah, I love how it comes with the Room 237, like, keychain. Oh, my God, this thing looks cool. I definitely have to own this.
The thing is, Tim, even if your friends that you normally do board games with won't play it with you, eventually your kids will. Your kids, your wife, or train the pets, one or the other.
That's true.
Yeah, and unlike Xander, I think Tim's kids read the rules to the games.
Yeah.
But Steve, we need to plan our next game night because we still got to try Jaws. I still have that cool Cthulhu game Tim got me.
And I got my Cthulhu game also.
Oh, you bought that same one?
I got the one with the marbles. Was it Tower of Madness? The one with the marbles and Cthulhu?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Maybe we'll have to get Tim out here, and then the three of us will all each bring a Cthulhu game and just have a Cthulhu fest.
There you go.
That just seems like trouble. Might as well just drive to Rhode Island and visit, Lovecraft's grave at that point.
Is that where he is?
That is where he is.
Yeah, Ken's actually invited me when he was up that way. He actually invited me up there to go check out all the Lovecraft stuff. And I didn't get a chance to go, unfortunately, but I've always wanted to go do that.
I have to check that out.
All right, add it to the checklist.
Cool. Well, thank you, Cone, for coming on and giving us some good info again. But before you go, we're going to do something a little different this time. You know how we do our Zapmando game? Well, we're going to include you in this one. So we're going to do our Zapmando in a completely different order. We usually do it at the end of the show. We're going to do it right now. And so you could take part in the ever-exciting Zapmando game here.
Okay,
so
I'd rather eat an eyeball. No, wait, that's not it.
No, we can't do the eyeball one. We've done it twice already. And thanks to our amazing, unofficial but official intern Cody. She cataloged it all for us. She totally did. She sent us a whole Excel spreadsheet, which I now transferred into our drive, and it's awesome. So let me see. Let me get a good one though. I need one that's very Cone centric too, though. All right, here's a weird one. I'll do this one because I think I want to see Cone answer this one just because of fun. Okay, are you ready? Would you rather?
I am ready.
Oh, Cone's ready. Okay. Tim's ready. Would you rather sleep in a human-sized nest in a tree or in a burrow underground? I'll let our guest go first. Steve, you got this one, Mr. Cone.
Okay. Well, the thought process already is, let's see, if I'm in a nest, then I'm exposed to the elements more. But if I'm in the ground, I'm protected, but then you got lots of bugs and insects. Let me see.
It's tricky.
I'm in the ground. Does this take place
pluses.
in like? Yes. Is this in like the same? If I'm in the ground, is this in the same town as like Night of the Lepus?
Yeah, well, okay. Let's put it this way. Yeah, it doesn't specify, but I'll make an executive decision. It's in your town you live in now. So,
heck.
Tim's example, he'll be buried in Wilmington. You'll be buried in New Jersey.
Now, are you literally,
and I'll be buried in Amityville.
What kind of gear do you have? I mean, are you in a sleeping bag? Are you literally just like exposed in a literal human-sized nest? Or do you have any gear? Are we assuming?
I don't think you do. So for the nest, I don't think you do. But in a burrow underground, I assume burrow is just you're buried. But I think you make like a hole first, right? I mean, I assume a burrow you'd have a
burrow path of tunnels.
Well, yeah. To make the question harder, I think you have to assume you have no equipment or anything. It's not like you're in a secure. Because my initial thought was, well, I definitely want to sleep in the tree to be away from the ground and bugs and animals and stuff. But then if there's a chance of me falling out of the tree, I don't want to do that.
Right. Do you roll over in your sleep?
Yes, which I have been known to do. So I don't think I'm going to take a chance with the tree.
Yeah, but then yeah, I mean, so Steve, so what was Steve? Steve said
I'm going burrow.
Oh no, you yeah, he wanted to burrow, and you think you were going to burrow too?
I think I'm gonna have to because I'm afraid I'll kill myself.
See, I while I'm probably the klutziest out of the three of us here, it would make sense for me to do the burrow too, but there's just I don't like getting dirty on the ground. So I think as much as I'd probably fall out of the tree at least weekly, I'd still pick the human-sized nest in a tree. And another reason why is because I was thinking like I'm in the ground, right? I mean, like let's say I'm in an area where they decide to fertilize heavy. I'm going to be like shit piled on top of me. And then also, you could have like people randomly like peeing on you. You don't know what's going on there, So I don't know. I think I have more control if I have an aerial view of the situation.
Where are these random people coming by to pee on your burrow?
I don't know. I've seen people pee on the sidewalk. You are finale, but yeah. But
and then there's squirrels and snow and rain.
But squirrels really don't want to go near you, so they probably you'd probably have the tree to yourself. And remember, it's in your hometown, so I know that like there's not really like a lot of like snakes or anything. I think the worst thing I'd have to worry about is maybe like a hummingbird coming by me, maybe a pigeon, and then I could just sing the pigeon song with birds.
Have you seen those? I've always wanted to sleep in one of those suspended like tent things that like hikers use. Sometimes you could actually suspend it on a tree.
The side of the mountain on the cliff.
Yeah,
they do?
those look cool. I'd love.
I don't think I could do it on the side of the cliff. I'd have to do it like on a stoop. I think first to start off, but yeah, I don't know if I'd make it a whole like thing. Because, in case you have one of those night terror dreams where you, like, bolt up. Can you imagine that? You'd propel yourself off the side of that. It'd be like Midsummer. You'd be like, next thing you know, you're landing in front of Florence Pugh. But, yeah, I don't know. I think I'd have to go with the tree for me. I'm gonna be different.
All right.
All right. Tim and I will be in a burrow playing board games.
That's right.
No, you won't be in the same one. He'll be in Wilmington's burrow, and you'll be in New Jersey's burrow.
We can make tunnels.
That is, but you got to go through a lot of landfill. You remember in New Jersey, Steve, to get all the way to Wilmington. God knows what. But you'll be worse than what Tim Robbins went through in Shawshank to get to Tim. But that would be fun though. We could grow like a little plant on top of Cone, so we know where he is.
Yeah.
In case we need him for something. But that was an interesting one, a little different. Oh, I will give the facts here. So randomly, it says 5% of adults sleepwalk. So if we're in that 5%, you guys will be burrowing out of the ground like Night of the Living Dead, and I'll be like falling out of trees. So that'll be interesting. And then here's one. It says, underground is the only word in English language that begins and ends with the letters U-N-D. So discovered by some unemployed writer spending too much time in his underground burrow. See, look at your future, you guys. You're going to come up with these facts. Had the guy been a bookkeeper instead, he might have figured out that his profession is the only word in the English language with 3 consecutive double letters. You gotta love these Armando facts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so well, thanks for joining us, Cone, and telling us about your burrow fantasy with us.
Yeah.
Oh, pleasure as always.
I like how he went immediately to wanting to burrow with me.
I know. You see that? Like he's already
Otherwise, I'd be lonely.
I'm sure you'd have some grubs in there with you at first. And it's New Jersey. You may find Jimmy Hoffa, right? Isn't he buried under Giant Stadium or something? The metal.
That's what they say, but they won't let me dig. I keep trying.
Well, you keep trying in the middle of the game. That's all. You're asking at the wrong time. You got to ask during the off season.
I can only rent the backhoe from Home Depot for so many hours.
I really think there needs to be the Adventures of Cone movie where all these things take place. It starts with him burrowing out of the ground. He'll come out of the ground from his burrow home. So pretty good. Well, this really went odd from a Toy Fair discussion to this, but. Gotta love it, right?
Typical day for me.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, thank you for coming on.
All right,
and
thanks,
I guess next report will come on. I don't know what's next, but maybe Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, or San Diego. Yeah, there you go. So we'll see Cone in August. Well, we'll see him sooner, but we'll have him on the show in August.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. So, once again, that is like Cone just comes through with all this good stuff. And I'll tell you, that Shining game, which you alluded to before we were going to, before the interview, we were going to leave it for the interview, what we're going to pick up tomorrow. Yeah, I cannot wait for that thing. That looks cool.
Yeah, you know what? I might even pick up that It game that came out.
I still want to get that, but I never see it in the wild anymore.
Yeah,
I've never seen time.
I saw it one time as well, but I think I may pick that up just to have. I mean, with all these licensed games coming out like Jaws and Shining, and I just think it would be cool to have a collection of all those games based on movies that I love. That would be neat. I don't even care if the game's that good. I just want the game.
I think I may just order it. I think Amazon usually has the It game for a relatively good price. Usually it's around $30-$35. So I may just pick that up from there. But yeah, the Shining game looks amazing, so I'm definitely going to pick that one up. Yeah, I like my little. I mean, I have a very small, modest board game collection, which is probably fine by Julie right now. But I definitely gonna get. I would like to get a couple of, like Tim said, a couple of those favorite games.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, so let's get to our main feature this week. This is The Headhunter. I had heard about this movie from some buzz I had heard on some of the horror forums. And then I saw that it was on Shudder, so I definitely wanted to check it out. And it's a brisk, I think it's under 80 minutes.
Yeah, it's really short.
And I appreciated this movie much more when I heard the backstory. The way I heard about this was on the Shockwaves podcast, which we talk about a lot on here because it's a fantastic horror podcast. But they had the director Jordan Downey on talking about the movie. And it just really piqued my interest because I did not realize this movie was made on a $30,000 budget.
Which you would never know.
You would never know. It's completely low budget, but it shows how even a small budget can make a brilliant film given the right story and the right tricks. Because they do use some tricks in here to keep it to that low a budget, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And it's just a fantastic example of low budget filmmaking with still making something that's wildly entertaining. So this was 2018. Again, like I said, directed by Jordan Downey, starring Christopher Rye as the father and Cora Kaufman as the daughter. And that's literally
it's a large cast if you haven't figured it out.
It's the only people in the movie. Another way to keep costs down, keep the cast to one person. So the synopsis is, a medieval warrior's gruesome collection of heads is missing only one. The monster that killed his daughter years ago. And this was filmed actually I believe in Poland.
No, Portugal.
Portugal, sorry.
Yeah.
And they, I knew something with a P-O. And they talked about on the Shockwaves podcast, if you guys go back and listen to that interview, he talked about how they found this place and the things they did to make this movie. We'll go through some of that in the trivia as well when we finish talking about it.
There's some fascinating trivia for this movie.
Yeah, so I really, really like this one. And I noticed right away, and again, I had the budget in the back of my mind. I noticed right away that a lot of the action in this movie where the father, I guess his name is Father in the, he doesn't have a name.
Yeah, he doesn't have a name.
But when he goes off they do a very clever thing. You know, a big budget movie, they would have him going off and fighting the monster, and you'd see him battle the monster, and there'd be this whole thing. And obviously, they couldn't do that with this kind of budget. So what they did is, you'd see all the prep of him going out to kill this beast or whatever, and then he would go out, and then you would see the aftermath of him coming back, and the rest of it's kind of left to your imagination as what occurred in that timeline. But they do it so brilliantly that I never felt like I was missing it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they had the sounds. They do. Sometimes you hear it of what's going on.
But they did such a great job of just letting your imagination fill in those gaps that they couldn't film, that it was actually really, really satisfying. I really like that aspect of it. It was a neat thing to experience. I don't mind not being shown everything. I kind of like having your imagination fill in the gaps. And this one, they did it from both practical reasons, because they didn't have the budget to do it, but made it seem almost artistic in the way they pulled it off. So I really like that aspect.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I was actually, it was funny until you said it now. I almost didn't realize that they did that, because I was like it was done so well. And that the scenes on how he would return and he'd come and he'd do his little ritual, he'd slam the head of the monster onto the spike and all. It was so well done and just appealing that to me it was I actually just, that's what I expected from this movie. You're right. It did not give you a feeling that you were missing anything. It felt very intentional, and that's. And that almost that's, and it's you got used to it right away, and that's how you expected it to be. I think actually at that point, showing much more would have actually been distracting at that point. And and what's great is another thing, and I think that helps that little trick there, so to speak, is that they got such a naturally vast and amazing to look at setting. It was this they found this little cabin setting, but when he would walk, there'd be these these cool you felt like you were back in time, and there was no set pieces they had to do much to, because that's, I guess, wherever they found was like that. And the fact that the cinematography was so well done, that it had interesting color schemes to it, and just some interesting shots, and there really was so little dialogue in it, because most of the time he's by himself, but he does talk to his daughter's grave a couple times, but it's little words here and there, phrases mostly, it seems like. And there's even some great, I don't know if I want to go into too many details for those who haven't seen it, but I will say that there's an interesting piece of foreshadowing in the very beginning that really leads to what eventually goes to the climax of this movie. But it's kind of funny, because I kept saying after the little foreshadowing, I kept saying, why didn't he remedy that? It's very simple. He just has to move something and it won't happen. But yeah, no, and it was really well done, and I have to say he has a very cool poultice, or so to speak, or whatever that's considered, that healing thing he puts on his body, which is kind of another plot point, but it's very interesting. But and there's something about just his movements are very methodical and so well done that you get a really you get so caught up into really him doing mundane tasks, so to speak. But you just find yourself being drawn in.
Yeah, and I think you have no choice, because the movie is so intimate in terms of you're following this one guy around in his one little house, in his one little countryside that you just kind of become engrossed in. It's almost like you're just kind of standing there watching over his shoulder while he does all this stuff, and it kind of becomes a little mesmerizing, I guess. You could say.
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, that's a good word. I was kind of like, that's the best way to describe it, because I was like, and it's a bit of a slow burn in the beginning, but and it's kind of weird when you think how short the movie is and that you could have a slow burn, but it's not like a traditional slow burn. It's just slow burn because it's kind of, it's that mesmerizing piece that Tim said. It's kind of pulling you into it slowly and kind of giving you the setting. And I tell you, I am very jealous of his campfire, so to speak, that big fire he's got, that roaring fire. I mean, I'll tell you, there's nothing like sitting in front of a campfire, and this guy's got like he's like the king of campfire there.
Yeah, and he's great.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, would you say like, well, how hard is it to do? It's hard enough when you do a solo performance, essentially, but let alone take out and not even give you dialogue. I mean, there's a little bit of a monologue in the beginning. There's, like I said, there's some scant dialogue throughout, but most of the time it's all by his emotion. And it's even harder because he's got this giant beard. So it's like, he does a lot of it with his eyes. So, I mean, it's really probably an underrated performance just in general, I think, how good he is. The fact that now, I mean, granted, it was just 2018 technically. It's a Shudder exclusive now, but I think might have been on Prime. I think I saw, but but I don't remember it being mentioned in the Chainsaw Awards from 2019's. Well, I guess at that point, 2018, and I'm like, why now? Now that I see this, why wasn't it mentioned in some things?
Yeah, and Jordan Downey said on Shockwaves that they basically made this movie kind of almost with the idea that if it didn't make it, they would say, "Oh well," they'd just kind of throw it off and toss.
Well,
it
you could
off
do that for $30,000. I mean, that's nothing for a film. So,
to me, this is like when you watch this movie, you can if you knew nothing about all that piece of it going in, I think you would find it fairly entertaining, and you would be like, "Okay, that was cool." It's still a great movie. I think when you learn the background of it, it just gives you this deeper appreciation of what they pulled off. And this is like I could see them showing this in film classes as here's how you can make a low budget movie. Just minimalist. The plot's very simple. Almost no dialogue. 2 actors in the whole movie, one of which is really the primary. The other one's almost cameo length. And it's just amazing that they pulled off something so entertaining with just that small minimalist amount of features and stuff. It's really, really fascinating to watch. I'd like to even watch it again.
Oh yeah, I do. I'm going to watch it again actually. And I'll tell you, if you watch it, like just watch like a scene from it, you would think it's like a segment from a big budget film. It's that well done, and it's that well, filmed. The cinematography. I know I mentioned this earlier. It was so fascinating. It's so like colorful, but without color. It's like that. There's some scenes where it almost looks black and white because they capture such a good grays in it, and it's really like I was really impressed on how. And how well it was. And actually, I have to say, I didn't know it was made on such a small budget until midway through the film. I was looking. I quickly checked something because I think I wanted to check where it was filmed. And when I looked at it, popped up IMDb real quick, and I saw that it was $30,000. I was like, holy cow! How is it so cheap?
Yeah, it's
for
amazing.
A film. Yeah. So I guess let's go through some of the trivia because that gives some of the ways he managed to pull that off.
Yeah. This trivia is great. I guess we'll just kind of alternate because I'd like to read all of these. These are all really good. Yeah. So Gaffer Chad McClellan also plays the archer seen at the distance by the castle, which is the only other person you see beside the father and the daughter. And he was the only available person on set that day.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we'll get to another thing later, which is even it's even funnier about how tight this and small this budget was. So it was shot in and around the remote village of Sutelo Morisco in the countryside of northern Portugal. So that's obviously a really cool setting just in general. So the fact that they scoped that out and found that for the film, which another way to save a budget when you don't have to build a set and you don't have to build anything to to get the setting you want to cross, saves you a lot of money.
Yeah. Film was shot in about 30 days.
Look at that, $1,000 a day, basically.
Yeah.
That's it. Let's see. It says composer Nick Sewell approached the film score as if it took place on a medieval planet. He wanted there to be a sense of something otherworldly and unsettling about the music in the film, and I think he captured that. That's perfectly described.
Yeah, we mentioned Christopher Rye, who was phenomenal in this. This was his first lead role.
Wow, and he did a great job.
Yeah, in fact, and they said in the Shockwaves that I think they had found him on a site to look for actors and stuff, and they said that Christopher Rye had almost pulled his whole profile off of that site because he had not gotten any calls or anything. So he was just about to just delete his account or whatever before they found him and called him.
I hope this leads to a lot of good stuff for him.
I do too. He was great.
So here's another thing that I was saying about the budget. So principals of photography consisted of a cast and crew of 5 people. That's it. 5 people on this crew. So that's like, you save money, tons of it. I mean, that's in terms of feeding, in terms of pay scale, in terms of travel and lodging for the. So I mean, when you get that tight of it, and also I think when it's that tight of a crew, it's a lot easier, a lot quicker. You know, you're kind of like all of like one group, and you're just like really tight knit group, and you're all on the same page really quickly.
Yeah. There's another way to save money.
Yep.
If you're the director, do all the special effects. So director Jordan Dowdy did all the film's special makeup effects as well as all the makeup for the actors.
Damon Leone did that with Terrifier. So
mm-hmm.
It says the main location for the movie was a 200-year-old stone grain mill. Once again, setting. You don't need to trust it. And it says once used for grinding wheat into flour. So basically, they used an established setting that was really cool looking. And so, you know, and it kind of had like, so basically, since he's like creating that poultice in the part of the movie, and he definitely is somewhat of a constructor of things. You can tell through he constructs his weapons in there and everything. So it had that like kind of mill factory type of vibe going to it for his little house. So that was great that they used that.
So the father's costume was built by Andre Bravin, who runs Patina Leathercraft, which specializes in handmade props and armor. And going to Gen Con, they have these vendors that make this leather armor and stuff for role-playing games and things like imitation chainmail and stuff. That stuff is really cool to see in person.
Yeah, I think I know New Jersey HorrorCon didn't have it as much, but Chiller usually has someone that makes all that stuff a lot, and they're usually there. So
yeah.
Then here's another thing about it's funny where the alternating is like matching up good with our stuff. So it says most of the film behind the scene photos only include Jordan Downey, Kevin Stewart, and Christopher Rye because oftentimes the 4th person on set, producer Ricky Fosheim or gaffer Chad McClellan, was taking the picture.
The filmmakers met Christopher Rye in person for the first time only days before shooting began.
Yeah. And so this is Cora Kaufman's first role in the movie. Of course, she played the daughter.
Mm-hmm. And then this one was the one I found most fascinating.
Yeah.
They talked about it on Shockwaves as well. Many of the props were bought from the store Spirit Halloween on November 1st in the post-Halloween sales before being modified and aged to look realistic. This was before the script was even written. And again, on the trivia, it says source mentioned by the director on the Shockwaves podcast. This is where I first heard this, and it's just a phenomenal. And I was even watching the movie trying to find the Spirit Halloween props, and it was tough. It was tough to find anything that looked fake or that low budget. They did a really, really good job dressing.
And I love that he did it on the sale day too, the November 1st, like the day after Halloween. That is talking about like a frugal guy. This guy needs to run budgets.
Yeah, I mean, it's so impressive once you guys see this. It does not look like a $30,000 movie, and what he does with it, and the like we said, the tricks and the editing tricks he does to pull this off are just phenomenal. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I definitely recommend this 100% to watch this. It's on Shudder, of course. It's right now it's considered a Shudder exclusive, so. But I'm sure most people that listen to this have Shudder, and yeah, this gives one of my highest recommends. This was really, really cool. So I guess we'll go into the beer pairing here. I have a good one for this one, and this is a brewery where I need to check out because this place has won tons of awards according to their site. So what I found was Headhunter IPA, and it's from Fatheads Brewery. Guy's kind of got a fattish head, right? Christopher Rye, it's kind of a big guy.
Yeah.
So it's mostly beard, but still. It's at a Middleburg Heights, Ohio. It's 7.5% ABV. Says Headhunter is an aggressively dry hopped West Coast style IPA with a huge hop display of pine, grapefruit, citrus, and pineapple. A punch you in the mouth brew for those who truly love their hops. Uncivilized, aggressive, award winning. And that's what it says on the can. It actually says uncivilized and aggressive. And how perfect is that for this movie, right?
Yeah, that is perfect.
I'll tell you.
All right. Well, let's get to our triple threat. Last week we were looking for an actor or actress, and we had some correct guesses this week for this one. I was very impressed with you guys for getting this one because it was a little tricky. So the answer was Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things fame and It. Clue number 1, my real-life fear of something must have made one of my recent roles seem very, very realistic. Well, Finn has a real-life fear of clowns, which most likely helped him in playing Richie Tozier in It, Chapter 1 and 2. I can play 5 musical instruments. Yes, Finn can play guitar, piano, drums, bass, and harmonica. And clue number 3, in my most famous role, I once dressed up as a character from a famous movie franchise that I will soon be an official part of. Finn's character of Mike in the hit show Stranger Things once dressed up with his buddies as a member of the Ghostbusters, and now he has a starring role in the 2020 film Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yes. Which we did not mention in the Cohen report, but if you notice, they're re-releasing all those old Kenner Ghostbusters figures from back in the day with the Ecto-1 and everything, and all those like that cartoonish version, which looks cool, along with brand new ones. Brand new, really high versions of it, so... Yeah, this is Ghostbusters crazy.
I've got the 4 the really nice deluxe action figures they released recently of the original Ghostbusters that are really good.
And I forgot to get you your Janine Melnitz from Toys R Us.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you can get that pretty easily on eBay.
Yeah. All right, so this week we're looking for a fictional character.
I think this one's pretty easy.
This one should be pretty easy. I think you
I say give this a 5 out of 10.
Yeah. All right, so listen up. Clue number 1. While I primarily appeared in films, I did once host my own television show. Clue number 2. I have been portrayed by more than one person. Clue number 3. My signature weapon has appeared in movies outside of my own series of films. So, fictional character, who am I?
Yeah, I think this will be. I think everyone will get this one, but. The only reason it's as high as a 5 is because there is one, like, I think usually clue 3, which helps you, might be the clue that might stump you this time.
That's true, yeah. It could be a little tricky. It could be deceptively tricky.
Yeah.
So, guys, we'll see you back here next week. I know this was a little bit of a shorter episode, but that's because we have our disc memberment for March coming up on March 1st. So be sure to check that out. Don't close out your feed because you are going to get all of the discs coming out in March. And we had a great episode there that we recorded earlier tonight for that month. So I think you guys will really, really enjoy that episode. And quite a full-sized episode as well for a disc member.
Yeah, it was pretty long. So,
all right, guys. So that's probably why we sound so tired.
Yeah, we had a long night. And next week, though, in case you want to catch up on the movie we're going to watch, hopefully we don't plan to back out on this one, of course. We're both excited to see this. We're going to be doing Color Out of Space.
Yes, I cannot wait. This is going to be phenomenal because we got to do Nick Cage impressions.
Yes. So that's always a bonus for us.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course you noticed the Zamando was done earlier because we wanted to include our good buddy Cone.
Yeah, that's right. So, guys, think about whether you want to sleep in a nest or a burrow tonight. And, but while you're out there sleeping in your nest or burrow, please watch your head.
Yes, and if you're in the tree with me, try not to fall out.